On today's show, it's a crossover edition. Locked On shows will be joined by Locked On Warriors host Charlie Walter to preview the Rockets Warriors first round playoff series. Which team has the most advantages? Who are the X factors of the series? Key matchups, predictions, and so much more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Also, check out our Locked On Rockets newsletter. Would sincerely appreciate all of that support. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. A tale as old as time, Rockets versus Warriors, part 5. Here, we've got our Locked On crossover event. That is Charlie Walter, the host of Locked On Warriors. I'm Jackson Gatlin, host of Locked On Rockets. We appreciate you guys for being here with us on the show today. Charlie, how you feeling about running it back just one more time against the Rockets?
I'm excited, man. We're going to get some rock fights, some old-fashioned 2005 NBA basketball scores. Love it.
Oh, man, it's going to be absolutely brutal. These are going to be some incredibly low-scoring games if the regular season has told us anything about what to expect out of this series. So we did one of these. We did a preview, a crossover ahead of the NBA in-season tournament game between these two teams way back in December. This show is going to follow that same format. So I'm going to take this first segment and kind of ask Charlie some questions about the Warriors. Then we're going to flip the script. He's going to ask me a little bit about the Rockets. We're going to get into things like what are the team's advantages? What are the Rockets and Warriors most afraid of on the other side of the aisle? Some of the key matchups to be on the lookout for, the X factors in this series, all that good stuff. So I want to start right there, Charlie. What are the Warriors likely most afraid of when it comes to this Rockets team? You look at this Rockets team, what scares you the most about them?
I think it's their versatility defensively. The fact that they can switch at any time and you're not going to find a great matchup for Steph or a great matchup for Jimmy, whatever it may be. Like the Rockets 1 through 5 are just so switchable. And that scares you defensively. The big thing to me is they got to find their matchups in other ways. They really have to get their role players going a little bit, whether it's, some Buddy Hield threes, whether it's Brandon Pajemski starts playing like he did a couple of weeks ago, whether it's Moody starts knocking down the open threes. Points are valuable in this series. Open shots are crucial in this series. You have to take advantage of everything that the Rockets are potentially going to give you because most of it's not going to be easy. So when you have easy buckets, Draymond Green, I'm looking at you, layups, finish, things like that, you can't leave points on the table because it's going to be a race to 100 in most of these games, if that.
No, you're absolutely, I fully agree with you there. You mentioned some of the role player names right there. And when you think about generally kind of like X factors going into a series, the star players have to be the star players, right? Steph has to be Steph. Jimmy's going to have to be Jimmy for the Warriors to have a chance to win this series. Who are the X factors, or who is the X factor in your eyes for this series?
I mean, like stock answer, you can kind of point to Brandon Pajemski just because he has shown the capabilities in the last 2 weeks against the Lakers, against the Nuggets, and really a lot of games before that, but specifically those two of being a player that can go out and give you 25 points, knock down 6 3-pointers in his 10 attempts, give you 5 assists, give you 8 rebounds. He's always going to give you kind of the glue-like things, but if he can score the basketball and be a number 3, a legit number 3 option of putting the ball in the hoop, it becomes a completely different team. Jimmy Butler is the main X factor where it's like, all right, if we get playoff Jimmy, we feel like the Warriors have a chance in any of these games to at least take it down to the wire if you're getting 38 points like they did a game ago against Memphis from Jimmy. But I'm going to go with a different answer here, and I'm going to bring up the name Jonathan Kuminga. 2 did not plays back-to-back has torched the Rockets this season, has been historically really good against the Rockets, averaging 21 points in his games this year. Remember the game that went all the way back to, I think it was November at this point. It was so damn long ago, where the Rockets came back from the 30-point deficit, went into OT. Warriors were able to pull it out without Steph. Kuminga was awesome in that game, putting pressure on the rim, getting the Warriors some easy looks, grabbing rebounds. I just don't see any way that Steve Kerr decides to leave him on the bench this entire series. I don't know what's happening internally. I don't know if it's something as simple as, he was late for a practice. It's an internal benching for a couple of games, but it seems real strange to me that a player that, sure, his minutes had been dwindling since returning from the ankle injury from, 30 minutes prior to 25 because he was on a minutes restriction. And then it dipped to 22. It dipped down to 18. My co-host, a Kuminga guy, is losing it over the fact that he's only getting 18 minutes per game. And then he just goes DNP 2 straight. Steve Kerr mentioned that that's just how this game was. It doesn't mean that he's not going to have his chance to shine. Draymond Green said he absolutely is going to play a role in this series. And I wouldn't be shocked if one of these games, specifically game 1, you saw Kuminga check in and do some good things against a Rockets team that he matches up pretty well against, because at the end of the day, you got to get easy looks against Houston. You got to get the ball around the rim, put some pressure on the rim. And he's someone that can do that. He can attack at the very least and hopefully put some Rockets players in foul trouble.
Now, Kuminga has been a huge issue for the Rockets. You look at the on-court plus-minus numbers for the Warriors in the regular season matchups against Houston. And again, Kuminga was only there for 4 of them. I guess he got some garbage time minutes in one of them. But +9 in his 4 games played against the Rockets. That is far and away the best plus-minus of any member of the Warriors. The next closest guy is Kevon Looney with a +6.8 in his minutes played against the Rockets this regular season. So Kuminga is definitely a guy that I'm a little bit worried about from a Rockets perspective. They just haven't had an answer for him. I don't know if it's just because he looks over at the other side and he's like, I see Jalen Green. He was drafted ahead of me. I hate that guy. I don't know what it is, but he always plays with a chip on his shoulder against the Rockets. It's crazy.
Your answer for him, man, may just be Steve Kerr not putting him in the game. It's as simple as that. I don't know what to expect. I do think he's going to play in this series, though. I'd be stunned if a 7-game series transpired and we did not see a minute of Jonathan Kuminga. That would point to something that is beyond just basketball to me, because I find it hard to believe that he's so invaluable that you can't find a minute of time for him to soak up.
Best Rockets defender against Kuminga, maybe Steve Kerr himself. So we'll knock on wood. We'll see what happens there. How do the Warriors win a game or win this series? What are some of the win conditions that they need to meet in order to come out on top in a game or to really pull this series out?
I really think it's going to come down to closing. They've had an issue this year with closing out basketball games. We saw it against Memphis. They went up 20. It's like, are they going to keep their foot on the pedal? Or are they going to allow a Memphis team that has zero confidence? They're on the road. They haven't beaten a real team in months. Are they going to allow Memphis to creep back into it? Not only did they allow them to creep back into it, Memphis took the lead late and things got spicy in the final moments. You cannot have that against the Houston Rockets, because all these games are going to be close. That 30-point lead that the Warriors took on the Rockets, that was an outlier. For the most part, this series is going to be within single digits, within striking distance at almost all times. And I think the biggest thing for Golden State is just down the stretch of games when the Rockets are all over Curry, because everyone in the building knows where the ball is going to in the final minutes of the game. It's going to Steph. Having Jimmy as that extra decision maker, getting him the ball and having him facilitate is so huge for the Warriors. That's where I feel like they're playing their best basketball. When they're running the motion offense and Steph's running off screens and Draymond's looking for him and Pod's picked up his dribble and he's trying to find Steph, that's where it gets a little dangerous for me. Get the ball into Jimmy's hands. Let him find Steph. I think Jimmy Butler needs to have a ridiculous usage rate in this series late in games. Granted, he didn't make the right play with 30 seconds left against Memphis when he turned it over, and that nearly costed them the game. But far and away, he's been the Warriors' smartest player since joining the fold. And I really think you have to treat him like decision maker A and really put the ball in his hands down the stretch of games. That's the biggest thing to me, is closing out these games, because I do think every single one of them, almost every single one of them, is going to be close in the final 2-3 minutes.
Coming up, we're going to flip the script. Charlie's going to grill me about the Rockets. Then we'll get into a little back and forth. We'll share our predictions and expectations for the series. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Skims. Look, when I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I'll admit I was a little intrigued, right? I've heard about their quality from, friends, family. My girlfriend won't stop talking about Skims, so I had to check them out. And let me tell you, it absolutely lives up to the hype. Having issues with underwear is annoying, right? You buy some fresh boxers, boxer briefs, whatever. I'm a boxer briefs guy. And they, you wash them a couple times and they lose their shape. They start to flare out on the edges or whatever. They're not comfy the way they were when you first bought them. Skims doesn't happen. They keep their shape. They keep their comfort level. They're awesome. I tried the stretch 5-inch boxer brief and I'm hooked. They're perfect for an active lifestyle. They move with you. They never lose their shape, stay in place all day long, whether you're working out or running errands. They're the most comfortable and reliable underwear that you'll ever own. Plus the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're not wearing anything at all. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/lockedonnba and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you by. And after you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Look, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels absolutely huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals save you up to 60%. My favorite part about Game Time, though, is the all-in pricing. They're fully transparent from start to finish. They don't hit you with those hidden fees, surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, let's keep this conversation flowing. Let's talk a little Houston Rockets. You got a little inside look at what the Golden State Warriors are bringing to the mix. Houston, I guess this is the biggest question, whether the Warriors have a problem. Houston, do we have a problem? It becomes, to me, late in the games, let's say it is close, because I mentioned how I think all of these games are going to be close. Couple minutes left. Who are the Rockets going to? Like, who is their go-to guy? Are you running everything through Sengun? Is it through one of the guards? Like, tell me from a Rockets perspective how comfortable you'd feel in a tight game, 2 minutes left, with Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, really good defenders on the floor.
I'll be honest, Charlie, not great. And that's the problem here for this Rockets team. It's been an issue all season long. They don't even really know at times who their go-to closer is. They don't really have one. And that's kind of the issue. It's what makes this team great, but it's also, unfortunately, a double-edged sword for this team. They've had this mantra this season, sometimes you, sometimes me, always us, which means on any given night, right? It could be Sengun's night. It could be Jalen's night. It could be Dillon or Fred or Jabari or Tari or Amin. Any one of their top 6, 7 guys can step up and be the guy that is the best player in that game. We've seen Jalen Green be the closer. We've seen Sengun be the closer. We've seen Amin Thompson hit a game winner and be the closer. Fred's been the guy to drive the bus at the end of a game. And unfortunately, that's just like this weird double-edged sword, because I think it makes it inherently harder to game plan against, because you don't really know who the Rockets are going to go to, what matchup they like at the end of a game. But it's also really frustrating because you have games like they had one against the Lakers near the tail end of the season, not the one where they were resting all their guys, the one before that, where they actually tried. They were playing that game serious. And at the end of the game, they just had no answer. There was a moment where there was a possession late in the game that resulted in a Dillon Brooks contested midi turnaround. And everybody was flaming Dillon Brooks for this, but he caught the ball. They swung the ball over to him with less than 10 seconds on the clock. First, Sengun had it, and he was facing up LeBron James, and he was like, I don't want it. Then they kicked it out to Jalen, and Jalen was like, I don't want it. And those guys in particular, Jalen and Sengun, this is going to be potentially their coming out party in this series against the Warriors. they need to arise to the occasion. They need to be the go-to guys. They're paid like it. They both got their extensions this past offseason. They are the big guns, the heavy hitters for this team, and they need to be the guys to close out a close game against the Warriors. Now, I will say Jalen Green has gotten better at it as the year has gone along. He's had some really impressive showings. And in fact, the very last game that these two teams played against each other, Jalen Green had 10 straight points in the fourth quarter. After kind of a more or less pedestrian game through the first three quarters, he had 10 straight there in the fourth to close out the Warriors. The lead got ballooned up to, what was it, like 13, 16 or whatever in the fourth. And then Steve Kerr waved the white flag, and that was all she wrote. So on a given game, any one of their top 6 or 7 guys can be the closer. But that is ultimately a double-edged sword because, I don't know, I feel like not having that go-to guy, not having a Steph, not having a Jimmy is problematic when you need a bucket late, when you want to try to win a game, when you're in a hostile environment on the road and you've got a chance to maybe sneak one away. That's going to be tough for the Rockets.
It's huge for the Warriors having those two, but at the same time, role player-wise, like whether it's Pods, whether it's Moody, whether it's Buddy Hield, Warriors have been afraid to take shots late in the games. You can tell that there's just this hesitancy. They're always looking for Steph with 90 seconds to go, no matter how, especially with Thompson guarding them, like someone's going to be draped all over him. And that's why I said in the previous few minutes that Jimmy Butler needs to be decision maker A. It's why you brought him in there. Because if he's on the floor together with, let's say it's Moody and Pods, and neither of those two are looking for their shot, and as a fan, you don't feel comfortable in either of those two shooting. Draymond Green, open threes. He's had some clutch ones this season, but whether it's the open three or whether it's the 4-foot runner, like you don't really want Draymond taking shots down the stretch either. So it comes down to really two guys. And Steph's potentially going to be bottled up. But key word, potentially, in a 7-game series, he's not going to score 3 points. I promise you. That was a one-off. He scored those 3 points in the last game against the Rockets on a ridiculous buzzer beater inside half court, just a few steps inside half court. That was his only bucket in the game. Had a few decent looks, but you could tell it was just not one of those nights for Steph Curry. Realistically, from a Rockets fan, from Rockets media, from Rockets perspective, what is a good night defending Steph Curry, who seemingly scores 34 out of 5 games?
I think the whole philosophy towards guarding Steph is going to be, Ime's done different things, different times, with different star players, he treats them differently. With Steph, it very much feels like he's going to use the same strategy that he used in that final game of the regular season, which is you're going to have Amen Thompson probably mirroring Steph's minutes. He's going to face guard him all game long. And even though the Rockets do have a very versatile switching defense, the goal is for Amen to not switch off of Steph. The goal is for Amen Thompson to be camped on Steph Curry at all times, even at the cost of potentially giving up maybe some backdoor action, some little, slip screens, whatever, to other guys, because they'd much rather, let another guy take a contested midi or, an attempt at the rim with a hand in his face, or, Sengun going up vertically to contest at the rim, rather than giving Steph those wide open threes, right? That's the bread and butter of the Warriors offense, is all that misdirection, all the off ball movement. And eventually you get Steph and he relocates by the, 22nd second of the shot clock. And then boom, it's a 3-pointer. And you're like, how do we lose the one guy we can't lose on the floor? I agree with you. I think that last game, as impressive as it was to watch the Rockets hold Steph to just 3 points, that's not going to be the case. They're not going to hold Steph to under single-digit scoring, whatever. Steph is an all-time great for a reason. He's the greatest shooter in NBA history. It is going to be a monumental task to try and slow him down over the course of a 7-game series. That said, I do think the Rockets might be one of, if not maybe the best team in the NBA equipped to do that, simply because they have an Amen Thompson to chase him around, right? He is, to me, the NBA's best defender right now, the best perimeter defender, the most unique, versatile defender. And he's got the speed, the agility, the quickness, the IQ to stay with Steph. One of the things that we saw in that game against the Grizzlies in the play-in is, dude, I don't know how many times the Grizzlies bid on those pump fakes from Steph, man. Just he goes out to the 3-point line, gets the fake, and then gets that wide open 3. And I was like sitting there kicking myself saying, guys, come on, this is poor game plan discipline. You don't bite on the fake. And that's one thing that Amen Thompson is so disciplined about. He doesn't bite on pump fakes. He stays on his feet. He relies on his size, his length, keeps his hands up. He's just going to make everything hard. And that's the thing about the Rockets defense. Their defense is just sound. They don't gamble for steals. They don't make a lot of mistakes defensively. They are going to make you work night in, night out. And I think the thing for Steph is he's going to have his games, right? And I think a good night defending Steph is just keeping him inefficient. You know, he's going to get his. The thing is, you don't want Steph dropping 30 on you on like 15 shots. That's what you don't want, right? If he gets 30, but if it takes him 25 or damn near 30 shots to get there, I think that's a great night defending Steph.
Jimmy Butler only had 13. One of his slower games in a Warriors uniform the last time these two teams played. 33 minutes, was 4 of 7 from the floor, only got to the line 4 times, which is an outlier for him. Typically, he's getting to the line in double figures. Was a minus 18, a team low, minus 18 in that game. Only had a couple of assists, just wasn't really that efficient. Now, he hadn't scored 30 in any game until the Clippers, which was the last game of the regular season, follows it up with 38. There's something to be said about this whole legend of playoff Jimmy, because until it dies, it's real. Like, it is real until it's no longer real. And look, Rockets holding him to 13 points. That's excellent defense. Does Jimmy Butler scare you?
He does, because Jimmy just has this like innate feel for the game where it's not like he's doing anything that's like incredibly flashy offensively.
He knows where to be, man. He knows where to be. He's a student of the game. Mm-hmm. You can get him the ball anywhere and he's going to have good spacing, or he's going to command good spacing. He's telling guys on the floor where to be. I mean, there have been multiple times in the last week, man, where I'm just watching Jimmy with the ball in his hands, top of the key, offense is flowing, and he's just telling people to go, with head motions, telling them where to go, and then frees up the lane, goes down, and just powers his way to the bucket. He's been aggressive with his takes. If he's not pretty comfortable in the shot that he's going to get, then he's going to find an open shooter. It may be Moody. It may be a wide open Draymond Green 3. It's not always the player that you want taking the threes, but he's going to get someone a good look at all times and make the right plays. So if your answer wasn't, hell yeah, he scares me, then I think the Rockets are severely underestimating what I think Jimmy Butler can be, because he's been good all season, just hasn't really taken over. And now we've seen it back-to-back games where he's like, all right, I know what I'm supposed to be. I got more left in the tank. Let's go.
No, you're absolutely right. Again, Steph scares me. Jimmy scares me, right? But the thing about Jimmy, and I think this is where, again, the Rockets are such a unique presence in the NBA, and they're one of the best defenses. The Warriors have been the best defense in the NBA since the Jimmy acquisition. Rockets are floating right up there, top 5 in the NBA landscape defensively. They have this, cadre of wings that they can throw out there, right? They've got, now Amen's going to be shadowing Curry all game long, but they've got Dillon Brooks, they've got Tari Eason, they've got Jabari Smith Jr., they've got all these different guys that they can throw out there. Strong bodies, length, size, physicality to slow down or make Jimmy's life harder, right? That's the thing is, and for the Rockets, they do have a lot of game plan discipline. That's one of the things. They don't foul a ton. They don't generally make the same mistakes defensively. So you might get, a game early in the series, game 1 or game 2, where maybe they're a little overzealous defensively. They're fouling, they're putting them at the free throw line, but they'll fix those mistakes. And I really do trust Ime Udoka to make adjustments and clean things up as the series goes along. And what I think is going to be really tough for this Warriors team is the non-Steph minutes, I think, are going to be the swing factor in this series, because the last game that these two teams played, the Rockets ran their double big lineup, which has been incredibly effective since they started rolling it out with a couple months left in the season, where you've got Adams out there, you've got Sengun, you've got Jabari all the way down to the 3. That's 3 like damn near 7-footers all occupying a ton of space on the floor. And when you don't have Steph out there and you're not worried about chasing him around the perimeter and locking him down, the Warriors really rely on getting into the paint and attacking and some of their kind of misdirection plays and stuff and those backdoor actions and cuts. And that's what the zone defense that double big lineup runs completely prevents that, right? Jimmy Butler's not getting downhill and not finishing in the paint over Adams and Sengun and Jabari and all that length in the minutes where Steph isn't on the floor. So I think that double big lineup is going to be a major swing factor. And that's not even getting into the offensive side of things about what that lineup provides this Rockets team.
Yeah, he's getting to the free throw line. That's the big thing that Jimmy's done. But like you said, whether it's foul discipline or whether it's the refs just not blowing on that whistle, which a lot of Warriors fans thought the last time these two teams played. But look, you can't hide it. over a 7-game series. If there's fouls, there are going to be some fouls being called. If there are no fouls being called, then the Rockets may just have amazing foul discipline, like Jackson says. Coming up, let's get some predictions. Prediction time. Best part of the show. Warriors Rockets Sunday. We're going to start up this 7-game series, and we're going to tie a ribbon on this show coming up on Locked On Warriors / Locked On Rockets. This is Locked On Crossover. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You could dive into hundreds of premium titles. We got EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It's as easy as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes. You got Netflix, Prime TV, Disney Plus, Max, and more, and you get the gaming. Like I said, it's easier to travel and to take your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, 2nd gen, and the Fire TV Stick 4K Max, 1st generation and 2nd generation, and the Fire TV Cube, 3rd generation.
All right, let's wrap up this thing. Home stretch of our Locked On Rockets, Locked On Warriors crossover edition episode. All right, Charlie, we went through some of the, we talked Rockets, we talked Warriors. We did get into a little bit of some of the key matchups and things here. Let's talk just a little bit about the feel of this series. It's funny that I feel like Rockets fans, have this kind of like trauma from dealing with the Warriors over the years. And it was really funny because Fred VanVleet and Ime Udoka were both actually asked about this. They were like, how do you feel about like Rockets fans and, kind of being worried about this? And Fred was like, it doesn't matter. This isn't that team, right? He just flat out answered. He just denied it. He was like, we don't care. And that's the thing. The unique thing about this Rockets team is they are young, they're fearless, they're hungry. And I think that's a deadly combination when you think about, I know that a lot of people try to throw inexperience and youth as an excuse for why this team is going to fail in the postseason. But I think they've kind of proven themselves throughout the season, right? They've largely been one of the top 5 teams in the NBA this year. They've been the 2nd best team in the West for most of the season. They've got a legitimate defense. They've got young guys that are incredibly talented. Now, whether they can put that all together and win 4 out of 7 games here against a very seasoned, very experienced, very talented Warriors team, that's going to be the big question. But I think this Rockets team, has a real shot here to make some noise in the first round, even though the Warriors are supposedly the real 2nd seed of the Western Conference.
They're real, man. Both these teams are. Like, throw away the Warriors' first half of the season. Just look at post Jimmy Butler. And I mean, the numbers back up that they'd be a 3, they'd be a 4 seed. So you're getting one of the top half of the Western Conference teams in the first round. Pretty unfortunate in that regard. With Houston's draw. But look, I mean, Minnesota is one of the hottest teams in the NBA too. There was no hiding, right? The only way you could have gotten lucky, in my opinion, is to get the Denver Nuggets, who, granted, tough matchup, but when you fire the coach, you fire the GM that late in the season, it's kind of waving the white flag to me. And then obviously Memphis as well. Aside from that, like, you take who you get and you try to beat them. I think it's incredible that the Rockets lost 6 in a row. And I'm sure you covering them every day, there was a reason why they lost 6 in a row from January 30th to February 8th. Me, that was like around the time where I'm looking at the Rockets as, all right, they're not for real. They're going to dip back. You can catch Houston. And then from there, they just kept winning basketball games to the point where they're one of the hottest teams in the NBA, despite their last week where they weren't really playing anyone. But I mean, I saw they were like 15-2 over 17. At one point, like, the Warriors are getting one of the hottest teams in the NBA, and the Rockets. You look at their leading scores just from game to game, and it's like Brooks with 27, Sengun with 22, Whitmore with 27, Green with 30, Shepherd with 20. Granted, that's not going to happen in the playoffs. Tari Eason with 30, VanVleet with 37. Like, this team has a lot of different ways that they can beat you, which is exciting from a Rockets perspective. My big question is, it doesn't come down to youth for me. They have NBA championship experience with Van Fleet. They have some guys that have been there before in Dillon Brooks, at least in high-level playoff series, and they have a coach that's won an NBA championship. It's not that to me. It's just, are they a piece away? Are we looking at them like and granted, I like to compare this team to like the 21-22 Memphis Grizzlies, where it's like, are they just a year too early? And granted, Memphis wasn't early for anything. They've just depleted since then. Or the Wolves, when we kept saying the Wolves are here, and it's like maybe they are just a piece away. That's how I look at the Rockets right now. Like, they're so damn solid, but are they just one piece away? Are they one go-to scorer? Are they just a sharpshooter that's not Reed Shepherd away from being one of the teams to truly beat in the Western Conference? And until I see that guy is Sengun in a 7-game series, or until I see that guy is Jalen Green in a 7-game series, I'm going to have questions. And I think that is why the Vegas sports books have made this a minus 200 Warriors to win this series odds. The reason that it's that way is because they're daring people to take the Houston Rockets. They're saying, hey, look, this Warriors team's done it. They're top heavy. Their role players have been solid. Steve Kerr's been able to coach them up pretty well since Jimmy Butler's joined the fold. So, I mean, that's kind of the way that I look at it. It's not necessarily a youth and inexperience thing. It's just a matter of, can a team that is very cohesive, very sound, plays very hard, but doesn't have that alpha, beat a team with legit 2 alphas? Because I wasn't 1,000% sold on the Jimmy Butler trade, more so because of age than anything. I'm like 35. I mean, up until LeBron and KD and James Harden and Steph, like 35 in the NBA, you're a bag of bones walking. Like that's not a good trade. Keep Andrew Wiggins. And since watching Jimmy Butler every single night, my mind has completely changed. Like, there's something about him during the regular season where he just does not look to turn it up scoring the ball. And in the last 2 games, we've seen a different Jimmy Butler where he gets the ball in his hands and he's like, I'm looking to shoot. If I have the open 3, I'm going to take it. If I have the lane, I'm going to take it. I'm going to get fouled. And that to me is just the difference in this series, where it's like, even if Steph is being locked up the entire series by Thompson, Jimmy Butler's going to get his. He ain't scoring 13 in the series. I promise you that. Sharpie that in. Jimmy Butler over 13 every single game. If you can find it on the FanDuel Sportsbook, go ahead and pound it.
Over 13, man. Set the bar pretty low for Jimmy. Go find, hit more on Prize Picks if you go find that Jimmy number over there. No, look, I agree with you about the A1 stuff, right? And that's why it's going to be, this will be a very telling series for the Rockets. I don't even know if they know the answer to it yet, right? This is going to be
no one does.
From a data perspective, right? This is going to be a thing where they're going to learn a lot about themselves in this series. One thing that we didn't highlight, right? We know it's going to be a rock fight. We know it's going to be a defensive masterclass across the board from both these teams. But the 2 guys that are going to get absolutely put in the torture chamber in this series, and this could be a deciding factor here, is for the Rockets, Alperen Sengun is going to get isolated and targeted, and they're going to try and abuse him and take advantage of him as much as humanly possible. So seeing how Udoka tries to shield him, what he does to limit the amount of times where maybe you get Steph ISO'd on Sengun or Jimmy ISOing on Sengun on the perimeter or what have you. Like, what can he do to limit that? And honestly, how does Sengun fare, right? Do they double team? Do they blitz? Do they send 2 to the ball? Do they pre-switch some of the actions? There's a lot of different things the Rockets can do. On the flip side, Steph is going to get just hunted constantly because this Rockets team, again, every single guy up and down the roster, aside from maybe Fred VanVleet, he's the one guy that can't and even Fred can if Fred wants to, he can try to ISO on Steph on the perimeter, but that's not necessarily a matchup advantage. But you've got Dillon Brooks, who has been incredibly reliable offensively, and he loves to post up smaller guards when they disrespect him by guarding him with a smaller player. You've got Tari Eason, who can drive off the bounce, attack off the bounce, use his size and finish inside. And then Thompson getting downhill. Jabari Smith Jr. using that silky smooth jumper, finishing over the top. If Steph somehow gets switched on to Sengun, he's getting put on the low block. The Rockets are going to hunt that Steph matchup religiously throughout this series. And I do think that a combination of Steph being hounded relentlessly by Thompson on the defensive side of the ball and having to work so incredibly hard to get his, on top of the torture chamber that he's going to be in defensively every second that he's on the floor, that is potentially going to wear on him over the course of a 7-game series. Now, I will say that with the caveat that something that does not get talked about enough with Steph, his like cardio, his stamina, his fortitude is absolutely up there with his shooting prowess. That's what makes him so special. The fact that the dude doesn't ever stop. He's constantly running, moving. I would love to have like a motion tracker on Steph just to see how many steps, how many laps he gets in over the course of a given game, because the dude never stops moving on the floor.
Yeah, and if you overemphasize on them, like the Warriors are going to take advantage of back cuts. They're going to take advantage of their movement. Like they're one of the best teams in the NBA, one of the best teams in when it comes to Steve Kerr, like one of the best coaches in history of just finding ways to get guys open off the ball. And the addition of Jimmy has helped so much in that regard because he's such a good and such a willing passer, almost likes passing more than scoring. Looking at Curry's numbers, we mentioned the 3 points, played in 2 other games against the Rockets this season, had 19 in that NBA Cup quarterfinals, 8 of 17, so decently efficient. But again, when they're face guarding you all game, other players are going to have to hit shots. Curry did not have his chances in that one, only 19 points. And then the other one was a Warriors win back in mid-February, played 35 minutes, had 27 points on 7 of 17 shooting, 5 of 13 from 3. So look, I know you're very confident in the Rockets defense and their ability to potentially stymie Steph Curry, but I promise you, in one of these games, he is going to go off. He's one of the greatest players in NBA history. No defenses in the world can stop Steph Curry, whether it's 4 games, whether it's 5 games, multiple games. It's just not going to happen. So one of these days, we're going to do a show. We're going to break it down, and you're going to see 36 next to Curry's name in the stat sheet, and that's just something you got to live with. The question is, that 36-point game that Curry has, do the Warriors even win that game? Because if not, Houston may not have a problem.
All right, we got to get out. We're going to wrap this thing up, but we got to get our official predictions on the books. I'm sure you've shared a prediction over at Locked on Warriors. I've already shared mine at Locked on Rockets, but we got to do it in the crossover episode. I'll let you go first, Charlie. What you got for the series? What's your official prediction?
I think it's going to be an awesome series. I got Warriors in 6. If the Rockets won, it wouldn't necessarily shock me. I thought if the Memphis Grizzlies beat the Golden State Warriors, it wouldn't have necessarily shocked me. This has been a very inconsistent team. And when I say inconsistent, it's not game to game. It's in games. They're just quarter to quarter. You don't know what to necessarily expect with the Warriors. So I fully don't know, but I will say this. I just think the Warriors do have a little more firepower offensively. They are very good defensively as well. If they can hang with the Rockets in the rebounding battle, not get crushed on the offensive glass, then I would have to think that the Warriors will win this series in 6. That's my official prediction. Take 1 in Houston. Split that. You go down 2-0. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I've got the opposite side of that. I've got Rockets in 6 on this one, and I do think it's going to be a choppy series in the sense that I went so far as I think Rockets are going to take game 1. I think Warriors are going to bounce back and take game 2. And I think a lot of Rockets fans are going to be terrified that, oh, they snuck one in Houston. Here it is. It's going to be game over. But then I think the Rockets are a team that has shown an ability throughout the regular season to win on the road. They've been a good road team. They've beaten some incredibly talented teams on the road this season. I don't think they're scared going into the Warriors arena and taking a game off of them. I think they come back, win game 3, drop game 4, so it's tied up 2-2. And then I think they come back home, they settle in, they're settled into the series. They played 4 games, they're familiar with the opponent. Warriors are an older team, and I think that's going to get to them as the series progresses, dealing with the most physical team in the NBA. It's going to be really hard to try and keep the Rockets off of the glass over a 7-game series. They've been the best rebounding team in the NBA. They've been the best offensive rebounding team, best second chance points team in the NBA. They built their entire identity off of that, just sheer volume, beating teams by getting more opportunities than the other team. That's their math advantage. Other teams' math advantage is burying you under 3-pointers. The Rockets' math advantage is we're just going to get more shots than you. And that's going to lead, even though the offense isn't pretty, we're going to have more bites at the apple. And that's what's going to lead us to the win. I think they take game 5 and then they'll close it out in game 6 in the Bay Area. That's my official prediction. We got Charlie's official prediction. We want to know y'all's predictions in the YouTube comments, whether you're listening and watching along over on the Locked On Warriors channel, on the Locked On Rockets channel. Give us your official series predictions in the YouTube comments. But from Charlie and myself, we appreciate you guys for tuning in for this crossover edition episode. We appreciate you for being everydayers. Remember, the best way to help both our shows is to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, listen wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our respective Locked On Rockets, Locked On Warriors newsletters. But until then, enjoy the series, and we will catch you guys next time.